Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the promotion ceremony in honor of Colonel Martine S. Kidd. The presiding official for today's ceremony is Lieutenant General Retired Edward C. Cardone. As we gather to celebrate Colonel Kidd's promotion to Brigadier General, we would like us to extend a special welcome to our guests in attendance. To Colonel Kidd's family, Dr. Justin Kidd, her sister, Marlette Wallabeck, and husband, Thomas Wallabeck, and her brother, Kent Lowry. At this time, special gifts will now be presented by Staff Sergeant Gregory on behalf of Colonel Kidd to her family. Continuing our welcome of today's special guests, we'd like to welcome her niece, Marissa Wallabeck, and partner, Tyler Webb. To her extended family, Carl Wallabeck, Christina Smith, and Darlene Cottle. To her dear friends, Bill and Sharon Kaczynski, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Retired. Mike and Dorina Hartmeyer, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Retired. Dr. Dan Jordan, Colonel Retired, U.S. Air Force. Dr. David Dugan and Mrs. Karen Dugan. Mr. Willis Jackson, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Retired. Mr. Bruce Meissner. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Sal. Miss Gwen Strickland, sister of the late Major General Kathy Frost. To the VIPs, Lieutenant General Retired Edward Cardone and Mrs. Linda Cardone. Lieutenant General Retired Stephen Lanza. Brigadier General Cale Oberworth and Laura Oberworth. To those attending online, Congressman Retired Martin Frost. Miss Leisha Adams, Senior Executive Service Retired, former Deputy to AMC Commander. Brigadier General Gail Atkins. Brigadier General Retired Becky Halstead. Dr. Harvey Rishikoff. Colonel Retired Larry Robertson. Colonel Retired Kevin Benson. Colonel Retired Greg Potts. Mr. Nathan Hill. Mr. Phil Truid, and many other teammates from Anniston Army Depot. Lastly, welcome to our fellow military service members, civilians, and friends. For the ceremony, Lieutenant General Retired Cardone has deferred honors to Colonel Martine Kidd. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the rendering of honors, the playing of the national anthem, followed by the invocation delivered by Chaplain Chase.
Will you join me in prayer this afternoon? Heavenly Father, we give thanks this afternoon for the gift of influential and impactful leaders who selflessly give of their time and talents to better community and nation. Martine Kidd is one of these leaders, and we are profoundly grateful that she is among us. We recognize the many family members, friends, mentors, and colleagues who have molded and shaped her in her professional and personal life. As she accepts the mantle of General Officer today, we pray that she will receive added wisdom, strength, and determination to bear her heavy burden and to overcome the challenges that will try and test her resolve. Now, Father, just as we diligently sustain organizations across JBLM each day, we pray for faith that we will enable us to lift and sustain Brigadier General Kidd in her increased responsibilities. Finally, as she reaffirms her commitment with the oath of office today, may each of us silently pledge to honor the promises we have made to God and country. For all these things we humbly and reverently pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Retired Edward C. Cardone.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's truly an honor to be here today. It's such a rare event when you think that there's only about 30 to 35 of these ceremonies a year. First, a welcome to all the officers, non-commissioned officers, warrant officers, civilians. It's good to see you all. I've been out about 4 years. I don't get around the Army much, and it's great to be back. And I'd like to also welcome everyone who's had such an impact on Colonel Martine Kidd's journey. Many of you here know that I know her personally. We've all waited a long time for this. So Martine, I want to start with, know that your mom and dad are looking down, and they're very, very proud of you. And to Marlette and Thomas and to Ken, I know from the years of stories how important you've been and how impactful you've been to your sister, and her strongest supporters as only families can do. Melissa, just know how proud Martine is of you and Tyler as well, and great to see you again. Justin, thanks for all you've done to make this possible. Few really know the hardship and the sacrifice, the joys and the sorrows, the importance of time, all the unaccompanied time, both on combat tours and professional tours. For those of you who do not know, Justin has impacted the lives of hundreds, maybe thousands of the 16,000 majors in the Army over many years. His mark is preparing and educating those officers through the Army with the Command and General Staff College and the School of Advanced Military Studies, and picked up a doctorate along the way. This day wouldn't be possible without your support, and Linda and I are honored today to be here with you. I first want to talk about the rank of Brigadier General itself. There are 293 general officers in the active Army today. The active Army today is 465,000 soldiers. Each year, we select about 30-plus officers from 3,900 colonels. This gives you a sense for the cut that Martine made. For many of us here, no surprise. And now I want to talk a little bit more about Martine. You can read her bio, but I want to highlight a few special people that helped her along the way. Her 1st Battalion commander, Larry Robertson's online today. All of us remember our 1st Battalion commander because they're so influential at the time. I know this because Martine has often talked about what she learned as a young officer in her 1st Battalion, that he gave her a real sense for self-learning, attention to detail, and challenging assumptions. Her DISCOM commander, Brigadier General Becky Halstead, who's also in the video line today. Becky's the first woman graduate from West Point to be promoted to Brigadier General and a good friend of mine. Let me read her own words when I asked about Martine. She said, "I first met and served with Martine in 2000 when we were stationed in Fort Drum, New York. I was a DISCOM commander. She was one of my company commanders, one of my best. She was a walking regulation of all things quartermaster, technical skills and soldier-related fitness, weight training, chapters, re-up, etc. She was strack, impeccable appearance, grounded in values and convictions, newly married and in love with Justin, her best friend. And they always say the best thing that happened to both of them was finding each other. Justin was in the aviation brigade but I saw clearly in Martine that she was ahead of her peers in seeing the big picture when it came to operational logistics. After command, I brought her up to the DISCOM staff because of her operational and training knowledge. We were a busy command, a JRTC rotation, the Kosovo mission, Afghanistan. It was 2001 to 2002. She and I were in the headquarters on 9/11. She walked in my office and said, "Ma'am, turn on the TV. The Pentagon's been hit." Everyone in America knows where they were on that day. Fort Drum was first up for sending the infantry battalion with the Special Forces into Uzbekistan and then the 10th Mountain into Afghanistan. Only John Sullivan, then my S3 and Martine, worked for him. Now he's been promoted to Lieutenant General. I love the connections. As hard as that day and the days that followed were, the comfort and confidence, the peace of mind, the heart of a leader feels experiences can only happen because they have leaders in their team like Martine. I can't imagine my time as a brigade commander without Martine on the team. So after grounded for years in the tactical side of logistics, the strategic journey started when she served as the aide-de-camp for Major General Frost. Major General Frost was the commanding general of the Army and Air Force Exchange Service. Many of you know it as AFES or the PX. This global command serves services members all over the world and is a several billion-dollar-a-year enterprise. Martine has many great stories, and I think it would be fair to say that Major General Frost had an almost undescribable positive impact on Martine, and I know how proud she is looking down to see you on this important day today. Next, Martine went to the Command and General Staff College, where she was the top logistician. You're going to notice a trend here, no surprise, and then on to the School of Advanced Military Studies. Only about 60 officers were selected a year at that time from hundreds of applications. So it's worth hearing directly from Colonel Retired Kevin Benson, the director of SAMS at the time. I went back to my interview notes from SAMS. I met Martine on the 27th of September, 2005. Martine was the fourth interview of the day. I usually just record the impressions of officers. From Martine's interview, I wrote down something she said that truly impressed me. She told me, "If you're going to be good at this," we were talking about planning and leading, "you have to be a continuous student." Of course, we selected her for the Advanced Military Studies program. Honestly, I never had a doubt that Martine would be selected for promotion to flag rank. She cares about the profession of arms. She cares about our soldiers. She possesses the qualities of honor and courage. I am really proud she considers me a friend. Our Army is in good hands with Martine as a general officer. Now it's 2006, and several planners came early when 3rd Infantry Division became part of the surge, and that was a tough 15 months. From March 2007 to June 2008 with tremendous highs and lows. And Martine rode hard in the division plan shop, leading and planning for several named operations. Rather than redeploy to Iraq in less than 2 months after being deployed 15 months, Martine joined Justin at Leavenworth. And little did I know, I would be diverted from Washington to become the Deputy Commandant at Leavenworth. It was an exciting time in many of us, including many here today mentioned in the invite at the ceremony. We worked to transform leader development and education for the Army. How was Martine involved? When my XO left, I needed another XO, and I picked Martine. Becky, does that sound familiar? I would say we, many of them joining us here today, had a strategic impact on the Army during that time, working for then, now retired General Dempsey, former Chief of Staff Army and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It's really good to see you all today, and thanks for your friendship over many years. As my assignment was coming to an end, I was asked to become the Deputy Commanding General Support for Iraq. But there was a caveat. I had to find an executive officer, an aide, and other staff. Well, I talked to Justin and then asked Martine to join the team as my XO, and off to Iraq, where we worked first for General Odierno and now for now Secretary of Defense Austin. Basically, we led the planning to close 90 bases, and one of those bases was Camp Victory, where it held 50,000 troops at its height. Redeploy 100,000 people, move 1.2 million pieces of equipment in 12 months, but mainly in 6 months. Our team was invaluable. From there, she went to command a strategic fuel battalion. Think about all the DoD fuel for the eastern half of the United States, Central and South America. There's a little storm called Hurricane Sandy that happened in the middle of that impacted the East Coast. I'd say she excelled at another strategic assignment. When I was asked to lead Army Cyber Command, General Odierno told me I had to pick an XO and an aide that had worked with me before that I implicitly trust. So I put the Leavenworth team back together with Martine and Steve Capehart, my former aide at Fort Leavenworth. Bottom line, we accomplished more in a year than in the previous 3 years and set the command up to be what is now today a world-class cyber force. And from there, she went to school again at the Industrial College of the Armed Forces. As a top graduate, no surprise, she studied combat vehicle systems, and now off to command Anniston Army Depot, the Army's pit crew. This depot is a national treasure, for they do most of the depot work for the Army's combat systems, including all tracked vehicles and all DoD small arms, including crew-served weapons. During their time, 984 combat systems, including M1, Strikers, Paladins, Howitzers, and M88s, and led the maintenance and reset over 3,100 major secondary items and 38,000 weapons. Oh, and she implemented a production management visibility program to make the depot more efficient that's now been rolled out to all Army depots. Next, she went to Central Command, responsible for military operations in the Middle East and Central Asia. Let me read the comments from Mr. Bob Hegelson, Senior Executive Service, who worked with her as the Deputy J4. Martine and I worked together at US CENTCOM, and I can think of no finer officer the Army could have selected for promotion to Brigadier General. Martine's impact on CENTCOM's theater posture have had a lasting impact on how we sustain the force to this day. Her leadership and exceptional efforts were instrumental in the development and implementation of the Western Basing Network, a completely revolutionary basing approach providing significant operational depth and resiliency to our efforts to deter Iranian aggression. The best compliment a leader can get when they leave a duty assignment is they've made a difference and made it better. Martine has done that throughout her exceptional career. I wish both Martine and Justin the very best for this special day. From there, Martine went on to work for one of the most gifted logistics senior leaders in the Army, Leisha Adams, Senior Executive Service, Army Materiel Command, who I personally admired for many years. And again, in her own words, Martine never boasts, brags, or lets her successes define her. She continues to show humility, peace, and kindness toward those around her. She's an amazing leader who demonstrates the character, commitment, competence, courage, and caring in everything she does. Her presence makes the world a better place. To quote Ralph Waldo Emerson, to leave the world a little better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, that is to have succeeded. Martine is an inspiration to all of us. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't use one example of many, I'm sure, of where she certainly inspired a young combat leader, now leading the 4,000 Soldier Brigade combat team in Europe. In Colonel Steve Capehart, my former aide, twice words. Hello, battle buddy, and greetings from Zagreb, Poland. Steffi and I wish we could be there to join the day with the family. However, the boss provided me the opportunity to provide a few remarks. So where do I start with so many stories to share? Here we go. Bottom line, Martine Kidd is an inspirational leader, an expert in sustainment operations at Echelon, a phenomenal strategic planner, and I'm honored to call her my mentor. Her intellect, presence, and problem-solving ability is legendary. Her ability to develop the next generation of leaders is unmatched. Even when the junior officer is a tanker, who sometimes couldn't see the big picture, she took the time to develop and had the patience of a saint. Now in the Brigade Combat Team Command, I find myself sharing the same leadership and sustainment lessons that she taught me so many years ago. And for this, I'll be forever grateful. Congratulations, ma'am. All the best, and we'll see you soon. Now, some are wondering, when am I going to end? I have this much left. Martine, you've touched so many people. I'm deeply indebted for all the support to me personally over the years, and Linda and I are so happy to be here today to see it in person. I just want to close with this. Martine's demonstrated enormous competence across the entire breadth of military operations. It's not just logistics, it's combat and combat support. What she's also demonstrated is tremendous character. She inspires people. She perseveres in hard times. She does the right thing. She doesn't shy from hard problems. She's also a people person who thrives on relationship and gives freely of her talents to mentorship. She'll be a great general, and we're blessed to have such leaders. Okay, enough talking. I think it's time to promote Colonel Martine S. Kidd to Brigadier General. Thank you.
Dr. Kidd, please join General Cardone and Colonel Kidd on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand during the publishing of the orders. Attention to orders. The President of the United States has reposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Martine S. Kidd. In view of these qualities and her demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, she is therefore promoted in the United States Army from Colonel to Brigadier General by order of the Secretary of the Army, signed Christine E. Warmath. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The General's stars are the oldest rank insignia still in use by our armed forces. When our Army began in 1775, generals wore distinctive colored sashes to display their ranks and specialties, such as infantry or artillery. A few years later, stars replaced the sashes as general officer insignia. On June 18, 1780, a directive prescribed that major generals would wear 2 stars and brigadiers would wear 1 star. It is a special tradition in the Army for former mentors to hand down their rank insignia to subordinates whom they believe have the potential to obtain and serve at that rank. Today, General Kidd will pin on stars from 2 of her mentors. One pin was given to her by Lieutenant General retired Cardone. The other was given to her by Major General Kathy Frost in 2005. Will Marlette and Kent please come forward to assist with the epaulets? Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as Lieutenant General retired Cardone will now administer the oath of office.
Raise your right hand. I state your full name.
I, Martine Suzanne Kidd,
Will solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same,
That I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And that I will and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
At this time, Lieutenant General retired Cardone will present Brigadier General Kidd with her promotion certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Command Sergeant Major Terrence Scarborough will present General Kidd's GO 1-star flag. Historically, brigade and division headquarters use special flags to indicate the location of the commanding general on the battlefield. The presence of the commander was meant to instill confidence and the will to fight in soldiers who might not be able to see the commander, but could see the flag. At the beginning of the 20th century, the War Department designed standardized flags for their generals and admirals. Red flags with white stars were designated for Army general officers. On your right is a table with the general officer's belt and pistol and a special set of shoulder boards made for wear with the Army dress blue service uniform. In 1943, the Army Chief of Staff, General Marshall, ordered the issue of specially designed general officer belts. General Marshall envisioned that this belt would be used by all general officers when carrying a sidearm, except when going into combat. The belt's design is a thick black leather belt with an 18-karat gold-plated buckle. In 1944, the official U.S. Eagle crest was added and first introduced to the face of the buckle. Since approximately 1972, the manufacturer of the Army's standard service revolver produces a special issue for general officers. When the Army's sidearm was an M9 Beretta, it was issued to general officers with a slightly nicer finish. Today, the Army's newest pistol, the 6-hour M17, is issued to all new general officers. Most importantly, these specially designated weapons still carry a unique serial number that begins with GO, followed by a numerical serial number assigned to each general officer. Under the provisions of Title 10 U.S. Code, active duty general officers and promotable colonels who have been confirmed by the Senate are issued a general officer's pistol on a loan basis. The loan of the pistol is valid until retirement from active duty, at which time the general officer can purchase or return it. Rumor has it, Brigadier General Kidd will purchase her pistol. Lastly, on the table to your right is a set of Army Service Uniform 1-star shoulder boards. In keeping with the tradition of mentors handing down rank insignia to those they mentor, these shoulder boards carry significant meaning. Brigadier General retired Becky Halstead, who was watching online today, gave them to Brigadier General Kidd. Brigadier General Halstead was given them when she was promoted to 1-star. These shoulder boards were handed down from the first female 4-star general in the Army, General Ann Dunwoody, who wore them upon her initial entry into the GO ranks.
So when I was corresponding with Becky Halstead, I just want to add what she wrote about this. When I was selected for Brigadier General, Ann Dunwoody spoke at our capstone course. She walked down the aisle between our desks, and then she stopped where I was sitting. She put her briefcase on the desk and pulled out her shoulder boards. I was shocked and humbled. I knew then that someone special would wear them after me, and I was always hoping that special someone would be Martine. And Martine and Ann both started in the quartermaster branch, and I still don't hold that against them.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Lieutenant General Retired Cardone, it is my honor to introduce Brigadier General Martine S. Kidd.
Oof, about ready for a drink. Good afternoon, and thanks so much, everybody, for being here. And thanks, Chaplain, for providing that really thoughtful blessing to start today's ceremony with no more poignant a way to begin an event that signifies so many blessings than to offer one like that. So thank you so much. Today is really a special and humbling day. And it's especially neat to be surrounded here with my family and my friends here at home, in the very place that I grew up and where my military career began as a private nearly 33 years ago. It seems like so much serendipity. My parents came here to Fort Lewis to see me promoted from private first class to specialist in 1990. And that ceremony was held at the Fort Lewis Rod and Gun Club. And I don't exactly remember where the Rod and Gun Club was, but it's here on North Fort. It was here on North Fort. And if my memory serves correctly, the ALCC may have replaced that building. So who knows? It's pretty special, though, to be standing here along the shores of American Lake. With my newfound influence, I'm going to ask for a little audience participation today, too. And that audience participation is, if you see me getting all choked up, I need you all to say there's no crying in baseball, okay? No, I'm serious. All right. Okay, General Cardone, General Oberworth, thanks for being here. General Cardone, sir, we've really known each other for a very long time, and I literally cannot imagine this day without you being here. And moreover, I'm certain that this day would not have happened were it not for all of the investments that you've made in me over the years and the encouragements that you've provided to me at numerous critical times when I was thinking that perhaps it was time for me to hang up my boots. And the good news is I know that I'm not the lone beneficiary of all of your leadership and mentorship. Throughout your 36 years of service, you really have left an incredible legacy. And there are crowds of other Army senior leaders who, were they here today, would be thanking you. So in addition to General Cardone and Linda, I would not have arrived at a day like today, though, without a lot of other people being vibrant examples of what good leadership looks like, and for providing support and mentorship and friendship along the way. No crying in baseball. Yeah, my theme song should really be I Get By with Little Help from My Friends. But with that, I really do need and want to recognize some special people, some of whom are here, some of whom are watching online. First, to my family. I'm not going to look at you. My sweet and wonderful big sister Marlette, who's now officially the matriarch of our family. Yeah. And of course, the best big sister anyone could ever have. Aside from my mom and dad, she's always been my biggest supporter. And she was always there applauding her somewhat annoying younger sister as we grew up. And she encouraged me to be the best that I could be and gave me the confidence to ignore people who thought otherwise. My sister was, no crying in baseball, my sister was an accomplished figure skater herself as we grew up. And were she wanting to do that, she would have been an Olympian. And it was really her athleticism that drew me into all different kinds of sports. After all, all little sisters want to be like their big sister, and I can still say that that's true today, that I would like to be like my big sister. To my big brother, who was just close enough in my age, only 3 years older, to make me a bit less of a pest, but a pest nonetheless for him too. He almost always took my insistence to be included in whatever he and his friends were doing as some sort of an allowable tax that would usually meant he'd be given permission by our parents to do whatever it was he was proposing to do. I actually think that my parents believed that he would probably stay out of trouble if he was forced to drag his little sister along, and for the most part, they may have been right. I literally followed him into BMX racing, and together, along with our parents, we traveled all over the western half of the United States and central parts of the country, racing bikes and winning trophies. For Marlette and Kent, as you heard earlier, our parents are both gone, but we know that they're here with us in our hearts and in the living example that they set for us, that no matter what it is that we did, we were to be good people and to make a difference to others. Please bear with me as I also have to thank a couple other military mentors and colleagues who've helped make today possible, some of which you've already heard from General Cardone. But to Colonel Larry Robertson, who was my 1st Battalion commander, he set a very high bar on what officership and mentorship look like and what right looked like. Like all brand new ducklings, young new officers will imprint themselves on the first thing that they see. And I was really lucky to imprint on Colonel Robertson. He's a consummate professional, a soldier, and one of the finest gentlemen I've ever met. And I still work hard every day to reach his example. Next to General Halstead, she was my first truly amazing female mentor. Everyone who has ever known or served with her, no crying baseball, knew that they were in the presence of a natural-born leader. She is actually famous. Go ahead and Google her. General Halstead being the first woman graduate of West Point to obtain the rank of Brigadier General. She taught me the importance of being intentional, of understanding how your decisions and actions can take on untold significance in the lives of others and in the lives of their soldiers, both personally and professionally. And that getting anywhere as an individual or as a unit meant that you had to put in the work. Next is the late General Kathy Frost, whose sister Gwen is here today. Thanks for being here, Gwen. And whose husband, retired Congressman Frost, is watching online. General Frost taught me really more than I can share today, but there are a few things to highlight. First, she showed me that being a senior leader as a woman in the Army often meant that you had to work harder than others. She also showed me that you can be tough as a woman and still make tough decisions without being tough to be around. And lastly, she showed me that there's no such thing as an insignificant job or an insignificant person holding that job. All people are significant. She spoke to janitors, secretaries, and generals in the same way. Every job matter, every soldiers matter, and every person behind those duties matter. To Colonel retired Dr. Kevin Benson, of course the SAMS director there when I was a CGSC student, I had no idea the level of impact that SAMS would have on my approach to being a professional soldier. Through SAMS I learned how to think, not what to think, and how to walk 360 degrees around a problem and keep an open mind as an imperative to consider as many perspectives as time would allow before making decisions. And I'm certain I would not have grown as a field grade officer in the same way without having graduated from SAMS. Next is Bill Kaczynski, who is here today with his wife Sharon. Bill was my team leader and an immediate supervisor when I PCS'd back to Fort Leavenworth after a particularly difficult and long 15-month deployment to Iraq. When I first got to Fort Leavenworth, I was a little bit of a broken spirit. Yeah, and I believe that my military career would probably come in for a landing at the grade of major. But Bill patiently listened to my story and then quickly ignored it. Somehow he spotted in me more potential than I thought that I had, and he would not just let me take a knee. He's a masterful leader, and he knows how to draw out the very best in everyone with whom he serves. Bill, Dan Jordan, and I all taught on the same team. And Mr. Willis Jackson was my department director, who was instrumental in getting me back to Fort Leavenworth to begin with. Those three gentlemen are still mentors of mine who inspire me to be better, to keep growing. Bill, Dan, and Willis, thanks for the many years of friendship and support and for being here today. And a shout out to the great friends and colleagues from Anniston Army Depot and the friends at the depot that are watching online. I know you're out there. So thanks for being Phil especially, thanks for being the very best chief of staff that anyone could ever have in history, and for being such a loyal friend all of these years since. And at the risk of leaving somebody out, I know I also need to thank some additional leaders and friends who have been essential to today's events. General Ed Daly, General Retired Gus Perna, Miss Leisha Adams, Mr. Bob Helgeson, Major General Retired Larry Lust, Major General Retired Ed Dorman. Each of these great leaders have made investments in me over the years and enabled me to continue this great Army journey. To some of our other great friends, some of whom are also here today, and some who could not be, Brigadier General Andy Hilms, Mr. Harvey Rishikoff, Mike and Dorina Hartmeyer, who are here, Dr. David Dugan and Karen Dugan, Lieutenant Colonel Guy Snow, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Saul, and of course, Miss Gwen Strickland, Kathy Frost's sister, and then finally, Miss Emily Wagall. Borrowing from the famous Footprints in the Sand poem, so many wonderful people have left footprints in my life and carried me, for sure, from time to time. And the lessons that they've taught me, the wisdom that they've imparted, I've really benefited from them. And it's their support that forms the foundation on which I stand today. Next, there's an endless list of soldiers, NCOs, warrant officers, and others who have taught me so very much. But to name a few, my first platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Reardon, my drill sergeant, Sergeant First Class Hernandez, my first sergeant when I was a company commander for Sergeant Moore, my SSA tech as lieutenant, CW2 Manny Vengua, Staff Sergeant Pritchard, one of my platoon sergeants, and more recently, my drivers, Sergeant Taitano and Sergeant Rodriguez. These great soldiers, taught me that it was important to pay attention to detail and to keep on learning. And they are really the reason that I serve today and the reason that my faith in the Army remains so strong for more than 33 years. I'm forever grateful for their example and for reminding me of the purpose of it all. Finally, to my husband, thanks, honey. Thanks for thanks for keeping it real and for making me laugh every single day and for taking such great care of me. From the very beginning of our marriage, 23 years ago, he told me how much he believed in me, how proud of me he was. And how proud he would be to be the guy behind the gal. Like all military spouses, Justin is really no different. He's the reason that I can do and still continue to serve, with one notable difference. So as a man himself who has served more than 24 years in uniform, a man who suffered all the cold, all the hot, and all the wet weather that the Army could manage to find, a man who deployed to combat, who stood guard on a flight line as a young enlisted Marine, who persevered while soldiering and working full-time to earn his doctorate degree, and who began his life literally watching the example of his mom and dad, who both worked tirelessly, and his dad, who retired as a U.S. Air Force Chief Master Sergeant. Justin has literally lived the life of military service from his first breaths. Thanks, sweetie. And that's what really today is all about. It's service. The service our soldiers give to all of us, the service we provide one another, the service we provide the Army and our nation. I'm a soldier. I'm proud to serve, proud to be of service to others, proud to be on the team here in the 593rd, and I'm proud to be here with all of my family. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's get to this reception. People first, winning matters, Army strong. Rest assured.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the singing of the Army song. Lyrics can be found on the back of your program. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please join Lieutenant General Retired Cardone in congratulating General Kidd and her family at the receiving line on stage. On behalf of the Kidds, please stay and enjoy today's reception.